on the whole, mainly what I've seen is musicians collaborating with each other and having an impromptu jam session. So it's a place where new ideas are worked out and thought about and done off stage, whereby people can make mistakes and just relax, and then out of that something really interesting might happen later on the stage. One of the most interesting things, one of the things that stands out a great deal in my memory was actually the first concerts which were done by my own band. We were booked to perform for 5 gigs in Berlin in 1996 at a festival called Heimatklange. So we'd not existed as a band before. What happened was a German promoter saw me DJing at X, Y and Z, and he said, hey, you know, I'd really like to bring you over to Germany for these concerts, and but the thing is, DJs like you are really boring to watch. So I'm going to give you a budget, and I'd like you to bring a team with you. And anyway, that team that I took with me was a team of people that were not known at that time internationally. So I took with me JC001, who's the fastest rapper in the world. He's of British Asian origin. Arif Dervish on tablas, Nitin Sawhney, Johnny Culsey from the Dole Foundation. Anyway, it was quite a big team. There's about 12 of us, and we went there and we were called DJ Ritu and Friends. Anyway, we were given so much ample opportunity to rehearse and sound check, and you know, really had a lot of time for us to indulge in trying to create some kind of show for the thousands of people that were going to be watching it for 5 nights. And at one point, JC and Arif started to have a kind of musical battle. JC was doing his beatbox on the mic, and then Arif suddenly, you know, played that beatbox back to him on the tablas, on the Indian tabla drums. And so then JC did another one, and then Arif replied, and it became this fantastic, you know, mic versus drums question-answer session. In fact, it's actually something that happens a lot in Indian classical music. The actual term is jugalbundi. But I didn't know this in 1996, and when they did it, I'm pretty certain that JC had not done anything like that before. So yeah, these two guys just started messing around, and fantastic. We put that into the show, and the crowd absolutely loved it. Performing on world stages at various festivals around the globe, particularly world music festivals. I saw a multitude of collaborations between artists from, you know, from different sort of genre spheres. And it was really, really interesting to see that happen, and to see who was capable of making that happen and who wasn't. I think one thing that I learned was that performers, musicians, singers, etc., who are firstly very open and flexible and interested in what other people are doing, seem to be the ones that are most able to collaborate and interact with a peer from a different background. So yeah, I'd say openness and interest were the major things that are required for someone to do that. But I think what also helps is a certain level of skill and accomplishment, because if you have musicians that are versatile enough and accomplished enough to be able to slot in and improvise and pick up on the key or the beat cycle or whatever it is someone else is doing, then there's much more room for something really interesting to come together. I think egos can sometimes get in the way. I think jealousies and rivalries can crop up very easily for lots of different reasons. And I think also there are some artists that are just really not capable of relaxing with anybody, and not, you know, they might just want the stage completely to themselves, the glory all to themselves, and they can't really interact with other artists. And that's just the way some people are. I describe myself as a musical chameleon because I have a love for so many different kinds of music, and I think because my career has been so lengthy, we're talking 28 years now as a club DJ, and in that period I've gone from I've gone through so many different genres of music and amassed those genres within my record collection. So really my house is kind of like it. I mean, it's like one sort of big CD, effectively. But I think this chameleon-like behaviour began really in my childhood. I'm, a British-born Indian. My parents were listening to Lata Mangeshkar and Ravi Shankar at home, so Bollywood and Indian classical music. Away from home, I was listening to Radio 1 and Dave Lee Travis and Tony Blackburn and presenters like that, and watching Top of the Pops. And there was very much this dual culture coming in and going out of my little brain. And then in my early 20s, I was a youth centre manager in the London Borough of Haringey, and I was working with Turkish kids and Greek kids and Cypriot kids from both sides, and working with almost every nationality. And it was through doing things like that I ended up also setting up a club where we played Turkish, Greek, Arabic, and Iranian and Rai music from North Africa, and we had and this club was very much a melting pot with people from all those backgrounds coming in there. And it was also an amazing place to bring people together because we had Israelis and Palestinians coming there and partying together. We had Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriots coming there and getting on the dance floor. All the differences had gone out of the window. It is about bringing people together, whether that's through radio shows or pretty much everything I do. I think as human beings it's so vital for us to be having a conversation with our community, and I regard our community as the world because we're all part of the human race. And I see music as a really important vehicle for ensuring that humans are talking to each other and understanding each other and liking each other, liking at least something about each other. Maybe it might be food. Yeah, great, we love kebabs, we love meze, we love, chow mein, but actually, if we can do that through music, which I think is even more powerful than perhaps food, though some might disagree with me, I think it's a vital service. I don't think we can ever have enough safe congregational spaces where people truly feel that they can come together and be in enjoyment. And it does feel as though those much needed spaces are dwindling and have dwindled, particularly in the last 5 years or so. I mean, I would put one of the reasons for that down to a terrible recession that began long before we were told it began, because we could see it in our clubs, and and I would another reason I would, another reason that I think has been a factor has been funding cuts, and it feels like the two have kind of gone hand in hand. On the one hand, there's been restrictions in terms of, you know, the free market and less people having less disposable income, and then the public funding has been reduced and reduced and reduced, and now we're in a, you know, austerity kind of climate, and we're kind of told to live with that, and, you know, tough. I think some really important festivals that have disappeared, I mean, if I look back at some of the ones that I've played at, Respect Festival stands out in my mind. Partly because it was such an important festival, really such an important festival, not just because of the kinds of line-up and mixing up and scale of the event. You know, I mean, the first one I did was in Finsbury Park. It was huge. I can't remember how many stages there were, but it was absolutely massive. And then I think I did the one the year after, which I think was also Finsbury Park, and then about 3 years after that my band performed at Victoria Park in Hackney, 80,000 people, Respect Festival that year. And the other thing that was really quite striking about it was when you walked around the parks where people had come for this festival, it was amazing to see how many mixed couples there were there. You know, black man, white woman, or, you know, whatever. And I know that sounds like a silly thing to say, because you can go all over London and probably over much of Britain and find lots of mixed couples, and it's not unusual, but it was unusual. It actually was unusual to go to Respect Festival and see so many mixed couples. And Greenwich Anti-Racist Festival was another one where I saw that. And that to me said something. It said to me that that more people feel safe about coming here, and they don't necessarily feel that great about going out and being in public a lot of the rest of the time. And when I think about friends that I have, for example, I'd say I've got 3 or 4 Indian female friends who are married to Jamaican guys, or you know, black guys from other backgrounds, and they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable in the streets. They don't feel comfortable within their families. They're worried about their children being mixed race, and this is 2014. So we need more of the Respect Festivals and the Greenwich Anti-Racist Festivals, and to keep putting those messages across, some of which are actually quite subtle, but are much needed. It would be absolutely wonderful to see borough councils making space for entertainment, making spaces for the community in those in those boroughs to come together and to engage with each other. But I just can't see how that's going to happen at the moment, because we do know that a lot of councils are cash strapped. You know, basic services are being cut back and cut back and cut back, and I think entertainment or performance or the arts, these are seen as luxuries, really. They're not seen as essential services, which is a great shame, because in 2 ways they are essential services. The first is about bringing joy into people's lives, and for their well-being, their mental and emotional health. It is absolutely vital that we have these kinds of services. And secondly, as I said before, bringing communities together, uniting people, giving people a chance to engage with each other. It's so, so important, because otherwise we end up with a fragmented, disengaged bunch of people that don't know who lives next door to them, and, you know, and who lives down the road from them. They don't, and who don't care. And that's not good for any society.